how to change multiple areas of your life all at once. If you look at your life and you feel stressed or you feel anxious or you feel upset because there's so much change to be made, well, this is gonna be the video for you. Because today I'm gonna show you how to go through our 4-step framework so that you can make that change all at once and help the change build off one another. With that being said, my name's Chris Richardson, and in the past, I've struggled with this. I've looked at my life and been like, oh my gosh, I feel like it's a dumpster fire and I need to change so much. But going through this framework can really help do that. So I promise you, by the end of this video, you will be able to change multiple areas of your life. I'm a coach here at Life on Your Terms, and I make these videos to help pass on my knowledge, pass on my experience, so you guys can work through these things quicker than I ever could. So the first step within this framework to change multiple areas is going to be to define the problems or stabilize. Before we can make changes, we've got to get a really good idea of the problem itself and really identify what's going on. So a good way to identify this is going to be to take the balance wheel in the description below. You're going to want to do this at the end of this video. But what you're going to do is you're going to take this balance wheel. It's going to lay out your life in like a pie. You're going to see your professional, you're going to see your relationships, you're going to see your health, and you're going to see your resources. And from there, you can really look at, okay, maybe my professional, I want to make some changes. Oh, I also want to make changes within my health. It's going to be a really good breakdown. And what I would encourage you to do is only to really focus on making changes in preferably 2 or at max 3 of these areas within a quarter to make these a focus, if that makes sense. I'll get into quarterly objectives later, but that's how you're gonna do it. You're gonna look at 2 or 3 areas specifically. So once you've taken the balance wheel, you've kind of broken that down, you then have to look at, okay, what in my balance wheel, what do you want to be different? What do you want it to be different? Maybe you're a 4 out of 10 in your job environment, which is in professional. You wanna get that to an 8 out of 10. Maybe within your mental health, you're a 4 out of 10 and you want to get that to a 7 out of 10. Whatever it looks like, you have to look at what do you want to make different. Because once you've defined it, it then becomes clear within the next steps of how you can change it and build off that. But it's crucial that you define the problem. You define what do you want to be different. Because you can also ask yourself the inverse, what do you want to stay the same? Maybe you look at your physical health and it's a 9 out of 10 and you just want to keep it at a 9 out of 10. What you can do then is you can hold all variables constant for the change that you don't want to make, what you want to keep and remain the same, but also you could start to look at what strategies are working there that got that to a 9 out of 10. So for example, for me, for my physical health, it's always been very high, or at least in the last 6 years, it's been very high. So with that being said, that if I look at my physical health and it's about a 9 out of 10, I could take strategies for my physical health and apply that to my job environment or apply that to my professional life to make that better as well. And what I mean by this is if I look at my physical health, I think a lot of it, the reason I'm happy with it is I've been very consistent, I've been very disciplined, and I've trained with a lot of intensity. Now I can apply those same frameworks over in the other areas of the balance wheel to make those better as well. So it's kind of, you look at what you want to stay the same, and then you take what you want to stay the same, and you take the systems from that, and you could extrapolate it to the other problems, if that makes sense. We're going to get into it more in these next steps, but that's just the idea behind it, why you're doing this. Because that leads to the next step of why do you want to make these changes? Now, the reason you identify the reason to make these changes is because you're going to carry that with you. Because consistency, discipline, all that stuff can be wavering. But if you have a very good reason and it's very clear to you, I am taking my physical health from a 4 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 because I want to be able to dance with my grandchildren when I'm 70. That's a very clear reason with big meaning. Same thing with your job environment. I want to take my job environment from 4 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 so I love my job more, so I can be a better employee and I can be more pleasant at home. Again, another very clear reason with a lot of importance, and that's why you go through and you define these problems. The second step that you do is you ask yourself, what does this change look like? And this is visualization. This is the second step within the framework, and you're asking yourself, what does amazing look like? So again, we'll go back to the job environment. You've got a 4 out of 10. You don't really like going to work, you don't like your coworkers, whatever. But what does amazing look like in that area? Well, amazing in 12 months, maybe it'd be like you have 3 coworker friends, you enjoy going to work, you feel like you're making an impact. A lot of those things go into that. So you're looking at what does amazing look like in the area that you want to change? Because then what it does is it takes from where you're at to where you want to go. And everything in between is going to be the work and the actions you need to take to get there, but it highlights the path. Because then instead of just being here and going a bunch of different directions, you have a very clear point from A to B, and B is what does amazing look like. And then you're also going to visualize what will the work look like to get there, because that is going to be the actions you're going to take on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes amazing looks like a billion-dollar company and all these other things, but the thing is you have to look at what is the work that's going to take to get there, because that's what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis, and that typically predicts our happiness, is what we are doing on a day-to-day basis, not the outcome. So you have to ask yourself, what is the work going to look like to go from here to here? And not saying that should discourage you, it just gets you ready for the next two steps, because the next step within the process is strategy. Strategy is you're going to look at what plan will you use to execute upon all the work that is in between where you're at and where amazing is. That's your strategy. It's going to be, how am I going to get there? So one method that we like to use at Life on Your Terms is daily, weekly, quarterly, and yearly goals. So now I'm going to go back what I said to only focus on 2 to 3 areas of the balance wheel within a quarter. This is because I don't think you can make meaningful change in all 4 areas, because that's a lot. But if you can pick 2 areas, again, maybe we'll rely on that professional and that health. And those are the 2 things, those are your 2 focuses that you really want to change. And then maybe you look at your relationships and your resources and you feel okay about them. So you're going to remain those constant. You're going to set goals that holds those constant throughout the quarter, and then you're going to really focus on growth within your professional and health. And if you want to do 3 areas, you can. If you feel equipped to do so, I would just encourage you to keep your quarterly objectives under 10 total goals. That's what I do. I usually have about 4 to 5 quarterly objectives. That's only 1 per area of the balance wheel, but that's what works really well for me. So maybe you set, 10 total quarterly objectives, and then you could set weekly and daily goals in accordance with those quarterly objectives. And on top of those quarterly objectives, you could set some yearly goals that sets out to accomplish a lot of things in all areas of the balance wheel. So goals are a really big piece of that. And one way you can make yourself more likely to do those goals is to do the 4 it's of goal setting. It's to say it out loud, it's to write that goal down, it's to put a date on that goal, and then it's to share it with someone. If you do those 4 things, you'll be much more likely to do that, because you also have a accountability partner, and it's written down and it's very present. If you could throw it in front of your face somewhere, I set my quarterly objectives right over there in my notebook so I could see them every day, so I know exactly what I'm working towards. So those can be really good and helpful direction setters, goals. And then on top of goals, you want to look at what time management and schedule do you need to make these things happen. More so, what systems do you need to have in place to make it easier for you to execute upon these things. Now, with systems and time management, one of the easiest things you could do is to start eliminating. Look at the things that you don't need within your life. How much TV do you watch? How much time do you spend with people that, you know what, maybe they've been friends in the past, but you don't want to continue that relationship? How many of those things happen within your life that are time wasters, that if you got that time back, you could really change your life? So the first piece within time management and scheduling is just elimination. What can you eliminate? Now, once you eliminate, you want to make taking action as easy as possible. Say you want to take that physical health from 4 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. A way to make that easy would be to set out your gym clothes, to have a time that you go to the gym every day, to make it as easy as possible. I believe that's the goal of a system. A good system will make taking the action as easy as possible when it comes to personal development. So look at what systems can you have in place to make these actions, these changes, as easy as possible to make. On top of time management, on top of systems and scheduling within strategy, you also want to look at accountability, like with the 4 it's of goal setting. Maybe you have an accountability partner that you do these quarterly objectives. I love to do it with my fiance. We sit down every quarter and we like to look at, okay, what are some changes that each of us want to make? And we have accountability partners. Also, on top of that, within your strategy, you want to build in your vision. So as earlier, we talked about, why do we want to do this? Why do we want to make these changes? Well, this is where the vision comes in, because it makes it a lot easier when you have a vision, you have a reason for doing this. One vision I have that really helps me is a sticky note I have right here that says the work is the goal. I used to really struggle with only focusing on the outcome, but this sticky note is a reminder that the work is the goal. The inputs are the goal, not the outputs. The outputs are just simply a function of the inputs. I got that from Alex Hormozy, and I love it, and it's helped me a lot. So what other things can you do to incorporate your vision? Some of my clients like to put stuff above their desks that are reminders. One guy likes to put a boxing match up, and that's a good reminder of him, of his values. Now, on top of vision, what reminders can you put in place? Reminders could be, again, like the sticky notes. It could be that picture. What other reminders do you need throughout your life to help you be successful? So that's strategy. Now, we're gonna move into the last piece of framework, which is simply making it happen. It's execution. It's making sure that all these things you've laid out happen and the change stays permanent. And this is the most important stage. Because you could do all the first three and you'll feel really good about it, but until you start taking action, nothing will change within your life. So with making it happen in execution, I encourage you to look at what barriers will stand in your way. What things do you know 2 weeks from now will hold you back from changing your physical health, will hold you back from changing your job environment? Ask yourself those things, because then you can be preventative instead of reactive. When we're reactive, we're more likely to get off track, lose momentum. But if we're preventative, there's no way we even get off track. So ask yourself, what barriers stand in your way to making these changes? Now, on top of what barriers, how are you gonna keep going? How are you gonna make sure that these things stay and they stick? For me, it's been relying on, why do I want to make this change? Leaning into that, leaning into, you know what, I want to make this change because this is important. And also leaning into that my time is limited here on earth, so I better make it as jam-packed with cool shit as I can. So that's how I keep going. I focus on those things, and those are kind of like why I'm able to not quit with the things that I start. So you have to find, what is it for you? How can you keep going? So that's how to change multiple areas of your life all at once. I know we got pretty deep on some topics, but if you like this video, please leave a comment. Comments show me exactly what I need to change or I need to continue to pump out with content. So if you'll leave a comment about what you liked, it's super helpful. On top of the comments, if you will like and subscribe, it's kind of just the icing on the cake for me, and it's cool to see, I guess. And also take that balance wheel if you haven't already, because it's really helpful throughout this process, and I will see you guys in the next one.